Hello and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club, the place investors go to gain actionable advice, learn about current market trends, and hear war stories from other professional investors out there in the field today. Before we get started, I have two quick housekeeping items to cover. First, if you like the episode, we would very much appreciate a like, subscribe, and share. It is the best way to support the show and keep it running. Second, if you are a new investor looking to get started in real estate or an experienced investor looking to take your investing to the next level, we created an ebook for you that will cover how to find deals that are actually deals, how to finance those deals with little to no money down, and how to exit those deals for maximum value. On top of that, I throw in an insane amount of free bonuses that you'll have access to once you buy the ebook. All we charge is our admin cost to keep the show running. So, if you're serious about real estate investing and want to create both active and passive income as an investor, head on over to the website at therealestateinvestingclub.com and click on the button that says Get the ebook to grab yourself a copy today. So with that said, let's dive right in. Today we have a very special guest with us, ready to drop some investor knowledge on you. So buckle up, grab your pen and paper, and enjoy the ride. All right, and we are live. Today we have with us Brian Briscoe. Brian is the co-founder of the real estate investing firm Four Oaks Capital, host of the Amazing Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast, and active duty in the U.S. Marines stationed at the Pentagon. Brian, thank you for hopping on the show today. How are you?
Hey, thanks a lot, Gabe. I appreciate the invitation. Appreciate you taking time to have me on the show.
Absolutely. And I usually start out asking, where are you calling from? But it sounds like, are you calling from the Pentagon?
I'm not today. I have not yet done a podcast from the Pentagon. I've done several Zoom calls and whatnot, but I am teleworking today. And for, anybody out there, it is, 4:20 p.m. right now. So, end of the workday. But yeah, today's telework day.
I would imagine that they would kind of frown upon on doing podcasts in the Pentagon for some reason. I feel like it's a kind of a buttoned up place over there.
It's almost like the little black box. You go in and it's almost like the rest of life stops for a little while, or at least you're almost isolated in there
in a different world. Yeah,
you put your phone in a box, and it's just you sit down at your government computer, and a lot of the exterior websites are blocked. So it's just a different place.
It's crazy. Yeah. We're not here to talk about the Pentagon, though. We're here to talk about real estate. So
right.
Why don't you get us started and just tell us your story? How'd you get started in real estate?
So I think it started, I've been military for almost 20 years now, 19 and change. But I would say about 16, 17 years ago, when I was still new to the military, wasn't 100% convinced that I was going to do military long term, but I did, get into, reading some books on, finances. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was one of them, and I remember thinking, he talks a lot about real estate in there, and, he's more specifically talking about commercial real estate than single family. But I remember thinking that commercial estate sounds too too complicated. I think I could do single family though, so I bought a couple of books on single family, on mortgages, on things like that. Did a lot of self-study and, started trying to buy single family investment properties, ended up with a handful over the years, but kind of lost sight of that. I had, 3 deployments and 1 overseas move in like a 5 or 6 year span, and so I lost sight of the single family of buying the single family homes until just a couple of years ago. And I started just recalibrating basically and, resetting, and looked at where I wanted to get to. And, 15 years ago when I was 20 something buying homes, I had my whole life ahead of me. I didn't really have this, big plan or big goal or timeline. It was just like, I'll just start buying houses.
Yep.
But yeah, now I'm in my 40s, and it's just like, okay, now I have a timeline. Now I need to accelerate things. So realized really quickly that the amount of single family houses I would need to get to where I want to get was a large number, 60 to 100. is what I had estimated. And that just didn't sit well. I'm like, all right, so that's 60 places I have to find and then inspect and then, get under contract and everything else, and, find a down payment on. And, it just seemed like it was a whole lot of work, and not that I'm adverse to work, but, somewhere along the lines, I read a book on multifamily. I'm like, you know what? I could do that. And it just resonated, it's just like, hey, you're looking at a 25 unit apartment. It's like buy one, get 24 free,
It's a package deal. You got to love it.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, so if I need 60 to 100 single family units, I can either buy 60 to 100, or I can just start buying apartments, and I can scale a lot quicker. So started putting a lot of time and energy into researching it. And, I'm not going to say it's all rainbows and unicorns. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of effort getting this business rolling. I was talking to, somebody in a networking call earlier today, and, he made the point, it's like pushing a large boulder uphill for 2 years, is what it's taken to get here. But we're at the point right now to where, things are starting to, bear fruit, so, that's where we're at right now. I got a couple of partners companies, Four Oaks Capital, as you mentioned in my bio. We have 4 apartment buildings that we've closed on that we're operating right now. One more that we have under contract. And, just today, not sure when this will air, but just today we got another unit, another LOI sent out. So hopefully we'll have, another contract in the next week or so. But I'm optimistic. I'm an optimist, so LOIs equal contracts to me.
I love it. And you gotta have a positive attitude when you're sending stuff out, because, we try to get, deals that we really, really are excited about. So a lot of our LOIs do not go answered. So I like that I like your story. I like that you kind of equated it to rolling a boulder up a hill. And that resonates with me, especially when I got started. Like, it is hard to get this business going. Like, especially if you're trying to do large things. Like, we're in mobile home parks, mobile home and RV parks. So we're doing, multi-unit things. It's not quite multifamily like you're in, but, it's the same kind of boat.
Yeah. It's a little simpler from one perspective, but yeah.
Yep. But yeah, it's just like rolling that boulder up the hill. So what was, there's going to be a lot of people listening, watching that are in the new stages. So what was kind of, take us through the first year. How did you get started looking into multifamily, and then up to the first close that you did?
For first year, from when I actively started, there was a lot of podcasting and listening to podcasts and reading books. I'm not going to include that in my first year. I think, we'll start the clock on the first time I actually went and toured a property. I started looking at, 6 units and 8 units and, 10 unit properties, toured a couple, and I had this idea of multifamily, but I remember walking out of one of them after I toured and just thinking, I don't even know if this is a good deal. How do there's the price on the paper. He's like, there's the rents. I'm like, I know there's other expenses, but what are they? So that was, my podcast education, and I had a lot of energy and I really wanted to do it. But then I realized there's a couple of things I still need to learn, so bought into one of those paid for online classes on how to do apartments. Ended up going to a big networking event a little later on, got into, Michael Blunt coaching program, and that went well. But, I went from, walking in and out of units thinking, is this a good deal? To being able to analyze and underwrite and, look at what the returns are going to be and, just kind of project what's going on. So, I think that was a crucial first step, was just learning how to work the numbers. And I got 2 degrees in math, so numbers were easy for me. But just realizing how everything comes together and I think knowing a little better, what to expect on expenses
Yeah.
and whatnot really helped out.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say the hard part is that, I mean, a lot of that does come with experience. I mean, I remember like reading the books and understanding it kind of conceptually, but when I would put in offers, I was just like, I hope this is a good deal. It made sense on paper, but, being able to actually go through it and then manage a property afterwards, kind of gives you a little bit more clarity for that.
Yeah. And now it's a lot easier, after focusing on one area, underwriting properties, I started focusing in South Carolina, but after, reviewing property after property after property, I got better at it. And I knew when things were over. I mean, I know that a 1-bedroom apartment in South Carolina, for example, is going to, if it's, central water bill, if it's a 1-bedroom, it's about $35 a month. If it's a 2-bedroom, it's going to be about, $40 to $45 a month. So quick sniff test, we just estimate $40 per unit per month for water, multiply it by 12, and we can just look at the number and say, oh my gosh, their water bill is way too high. What's going on there? So so part of it was, I think the next step in the journey was being able to focus on one particular area. And this is something my mentor really helped me with. I was all over the map, and he's like, hey, Brian, focus. He's like, pick 1 or 2 metros and focus. And my response was, but, 1 or 2 metros, I mean, I'm not going to have deal flow. He's like, if you focus, you will.
Yep.
I'm like, all right. So, I hit the I believe button. And, he was right. You started focusing in one area, and we started building relationships with brokers, and that was also a difficult part was, it took, I probably made 100 cold calls to different brokers, sent even more emails. I got to the point to where I was trying to figure out how can I get these brokers to pay attention to me? And the best way I figured it out, prior to getting my first deal, best way I figured it out was I would send an email to them as an introduction, and then it'd be a quick, maybe a 20-second read, and then at the bottom saying, hey, I'll follow up with a phone call. And then the next day I'd call them, and amazingly, that's what got the biggest response rate as far as brokers answering my calls and talking with me. But I experimented with that one, but like I said, I must have cold called at least 100 brokers before getting a handful to take me seriously. And part of that was, maybe the first couple of broker calls, I was completely and woefully underprepared because I just didn't know what it took to buy an apartment, and my first broker call, they asked me what my criteria was. And I'm like, I want to buy an apartment,
I want something, many bedrooms. I don't know.
Yeah. Just an apartment, and I'm sure the broker was just like, yeah, I'm not talking to this guy ever again, and, so I learned to define my criteria, and then I called him up and like, okay, well, where's your money coming from? I'm like, I don't know, other people, and so, okay, went back to the drawing board. And I think as, through the process of the 100 calls, I started learning, okay, they're all asking me the same thing, and I realized now they were vetting me. They're basically, am I going to waste time with this guy?
Yep.
Brokers get paid off of commission. They get paid when they make a sale. So they don't want to waste their time on somebody who's just going to chew up bandwidth. But through the 100 or so calls, each time I was asked a question that I couldn't answer, I started thinking, well, why did he ask me that? Why is that important? And okay, now I guess I need to figure it out. I learned some brand new terms on some of those calls. I didn't know what a key principal was until I talked to a broker. He asked, okay, well, you don't have the net worth for this $5 million property. Do you have a key principal? And I'm like, what's that? And of course that broker wrote me off immediately, but I went back and said, okay, what's a key principal? I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. And actually we did have somebody lined up as a key principal. I just didn't know what it was called. But end of the day, getting past that broker shroud or piercing that broker shroud was a marathon event. It wasn't it wasn't easy. But yeah, that's kind of the journey. We finally got a couple of brokers to take us seriously, and picked up some partners along the way. And formed Four Oaks Capital. But so first deal. I think the biggest thing for a broker to take you seriously is closing. We closed on our first deal, and
absolutely, yep.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it was like magical. Brokers are now calling us. Hey, can I sell you this apartment? Sure. But so that's kind of the path, and a lot of the hurdles we came to.
Before we continue on with today's guest, I want to tell you guys about a community I'm launching on School to help investors like yourself grow your own portfolio. In this community, you'll get access to all the docs I use, all the systems I've built, everything I've used to grow my own portfolio, as well as instructions and guidance on how to get out there and find great deals, how to finance those deals, and then how to manage them for great returns. Since we're just launching it, the price will be set at a measly $20 per month, and whatever price you join at is the price you'll have for life. We will be increasing the price as the group grows, so if you're at all interested in growing your portfolio along other investors, now is the time to join. I will put the link somewhere in the bio or on our podcast website at therealestateinvestingclub.com, so if you are interested, head on over there. With that said, let's get back to the podcast. Cool. Yeah, no, it is kind of crazy. You mentioned going back to that uphill battle kind of idea. Mm-hmm. It is like that at the beginning, especially when you're trying to find deals. That was the hardest part for me, is just finding a deal. Yeah. And you're right. Once you get the first one done, things start to pick up. But if there's people listening, watching, and you haven't done your first one, just keep pressing on, because if you just keep putting the effort into it, eventually it will turn up, and then the doors will kind of open a little bit wider for you. But you do have to just believe, just hit that believe button until you get to that level.
Yeah, and eventually, it's like you create your own luck. Hard work and effort. You see, I see a lot of posts like this on social media. The harder I work, the luckier I get, and that's. We've had a couple of deals fall into our laps, put an LOI out today on a 167 unit property that just kind of fell in our lap, but nice. Hopefully we'll get that one. But I'll tell you what, if my partner, Eric's our acquisitions guy, he's probably on the phone calling brokers, several hours during the day, so, so when something falls in our lap, it's not lucky, it's I made 100, at least 100 calls to different brokers before we got our first one under contract, and he's making, I don't know how many, but, probably double-digit number of calls every week to various brokers saying, hey, what do you got for me? Reminding them, hey, this is our criteria. And, if you got something, we can close quickly. We can, we can close is the message he's getting, putting out there. So,
it's awesome that you're working in a team. I have a partnership as well. How do you guys split up your team? What is the roles that each person takes?
So Eric's our acquisitions guy. So he's taking everything up to, deal finding, underwriting, due diligence. He takes care of the loan for us. Fills out the loan application, basically everything required to get up to close, and then. Partner Todd, he does the bulk of the asset management. I mean, Brian Mallon is also into the asset. The more assets we get, the more of a task asset management is. Mm-hmm. At first, I was the asset manager, and we had to pivot because I work at the Pentagon, and somebody said, "Hey, I want you to start working a different schedule," and my schedule completely changed. So. So we had to pivot, and that's when Todd and Brian took up the asset management. They're doing a fabulous job with it. Brian handles portals, websites, a lot of the background stuff that you need to run a business, bank accounts, make sure everybody gets paid on time and whatnot. Investor communication, so he's the one that's setting our CRM up for send out the emails and everything else. And I'm kind of the public face of the company for now. I help out with the other aspects when I can. I've got 2 degrees in math, so part of what I'm doing is working on the finance part. Making sure that our numbers and our projections are good. But because of my active duty day job, they're doing the bulk of the day-to-day routine stuff. The podcast is 100% my baby. So running the podcast, basically the forward facing, the LinkedIn's, the marketing portion. So I think most people, when they think of Four Oaks Capital right now, my face will come up, but that's just temporary until I retire, because most of that stuff I can do, regardless of what my Pentagon schedule is.
Nice. I like it. Yeah. And where are you guys investing? I know you said South Carolina. Is that primarily where you're buying your units, or is it just all over the United States?
We like the Southeast. We've had a lot of traction in South Carolina, but the property that we put an offer in on today is in Georgia. It's Augusta, Georgia. It's actually on the border with South Carolina. So, I guess you could say, South Carolina, but we like the Carolinas. We like Georgia, kind of that area.
Cool. I like it. Well, hey, we have passed the 20-minute mark. I don't think I've ever hit 20 minutes, but we are at the end of the episode here. So I got to push us into the next section, which is the quick question round. And this starts with your books. I'm a big bookie, so I like to ask people what books they recommend. So give us one book recommendation for real estate, and then one book recommendation just for general life wisdom.
Real estate. I think the best real estate book I've read recently is Hunter Thompson, the Raising Capital book. I thought it was a great book. And then my favorite book of all time is the Book of Mormon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So. And gives you a little insight. I'm a religious person as well. So if you didn't catch that, that's me.
Yeah. I love it.
So, yeah.
Next question is habits. Habits kind of form the foundation of our life. So if you could pinpoint one habit that you feel has contributed the most to your success today, what would that be?
Habits is something that I've always been working on, but I think the best habit that I have is just being able to every day say, what's the most important thing that I get done today, and, I'm going to retire in about a year, and I keep a countdown. And I think that countdown is really helping me to focus on what I need to focus on, so I got 342 days until, I hang the uniform up forever.
Looks like Brian just froze there. So we'll see if he comes back in the next 30 seconds to a minute, and I'll just keep talking. If he froze for good, then I guess we're going to have to end this episode a little bit early. If not, then hopefully we can get him back on. This is one of the beauties of Zoom, is that sometimes it just does its own thing. So Zoom people, if you're listening to this one, help us out with the occasional freezing. It looks like Brian is not able to come back with us. So I'm going to put Brian's contact information in the show notes. So if anybody wants to reach out to Brian, go ahead and click down below. He did have a closing statement, and so Four Oaks Capital is his company. He also has the podcast that we listed earlier. If you want to reach out to Brian, click on the link in the show notes below. Other than that, again, the best way to support the show is just to subscribe, like, and share this episode with your friends and family. Again, thank you guys for showing up today, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic week. Look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode and were able to pull some actionable advice that you can go home with and apply to your own investing business. Before you go, I have a gift for you. If you're a new investor looking to get started, or an established investor looking to take your business to the next level, I've created an ebook just for you, available on the website. This ebook will cover how I was able to create both active and passive income in real estate with very little money to start with. In it, I will address the 3 most often cited obstacles new and veteran investors run into by showing you how to find a deal that's actually a deal, how to finance that deal with little to no money down, and how to exit a deal for maximum value. And if you get the ebook today, I'm going to bury you in bonuses, 7 of them to be exact. First, you'll get the off-market lead generation blueprint, which will take you through the exact systems and processes we use to generate off-market leads like clockwork, which is the most important skill when it comes to creating real wealth in real estate. Then you'll get the A to Z REI systems and vendors guide, which will allow you to peek under the hood of our business and see the exact tools and systems and even the vendors we use to grow our business. After that, you will get the top 100 best performing keywords pack, which will give you the exact keywords we use to target leads online and generate leads without having to lift a finger. Next, you'll get the contracts bundle for wholesaling and renting real estate, which will give you access to all of the contracts we use in the field to execute all types of transactions. After that, you'll get the Investor's Quick Analysis Calculator and Offer Tool, which will allow you to quickly calculate whether a deal is an actual deal and will allow you to create an offer automagically from those calculations. Next up, we'll give you the Investor's Daily Success Tracker, which is a tracker you can use to ensure you are taking the right actions day in and day out to reach your financial goals in real estate. And finally, you will get the Wholesaler's Template for Quick Assignment Cash, which will give you the templates we use to present our wholesale deals professionally and efficiently to our buyers. I know that is a ton of things to say. I'm glad you were able to stick with it. So you'll get both the ebook and all of those 7 free bonuses when you download the ebook today. All we charge is the admin cost to run the show. So if you are interested in the ebook and the bonus bundle, head on over to the website at therealestateinvestingclub.com. Click on Get the Ebook Bundle at the top of the page and take advantage of that deal. With that housekeeping item covered, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, an even better week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. All right, before I officially sign off, I have a quick announcement to make. If you're interested in becoming a passive investor in one of my deals, my own company, Kaizen Properties, is looking for capital partners for our upcoming projects. We invest in what are known as recession-resistant assets, mainly self-storage facilities, mobile home and RV parks, and industrial properties. If you're interested in investing and would like to learn a little bit more about my company, our investing criteria, and some of the previous projects we've done, go to the Real Estate Investing Club podcast at therealestateinvestingclub.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. Click on the Invest With Us button. That'll pop up the investor form. Fill that out, and we will reach back out to you as soon as we can. Or if you prefer a little bit more of a personal touch, you can reach out to me at gabe@therealestateinvestingclub.com. So really, that is it. Again, it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys during this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.